Hello Internet, welcome back to another edition of Eric's Corner with the word of the not so wise. I have a part 2 of my emissions video. I kind of had everything covered, but I missed some things. I need to expand on some things, and the video really wasn't about how it worked, more what it does, and of course what it does to destroy an engine. So somebody from the comments section told me, he's like, well, you know, of course, accused, 2,600 views and literally 2 guys chimed in to disagree, but said, well, the point of dumping fuel into the exhaust is to raise exhaust temperatures, and then that's what cleans out the filter. I mean, you know what also cleans out the filter? Actually using the truck for what it's designed for and hauling a heavy load. I was pulling in my F-250, I had the 6.4 Power Stroke. I think my pyrometer hit like 1,500 degrees, which is pretty dang hot. So in your cylinders, you don't get complete combustion. That's just a fact of the matter. And this recycling system, it just gums up your engine. I showed you, and you can look up videos, or I'll post videos. This is the honeycomb inside of the exhaust. I cut it in half to kind of show you. So the incomplete combustion in the engine goes through this filter and catches diesel particulates, but then you dump raw fuel into the exhaust, which goes through the cylinder on the 6.4 Power Stroke. I assume it does on the other ones. I'm most familiar with the 6.4. I'm going to reference that the most. I own 2 of them, and I did the EGR delete on one of them myself. So the fuel you basically dump right into the exhaust, which of course immediately combusts once it hits the hot exhaust. That going through the filter cleans it, versus the other exhaust going through there dirties it. Does that make sense to you? And I mean, it's going out the tailpipe either way, and there's other people who have stated this. I had to redo the pipe on the Duramax I did. This is a nut pipe. It comes from the exhaust manifold. These leak. And I wish I'd have known that, or I would have just cut there's a Y on this side on the factory one, and you can cap it, or if you have the means to do so, cut it off and weld a plate there, which is what I did. Check to make sure that it seals. I used a little water, and I did miss a leak because, I mean, geez, if I had to take it back off, I'd be absolutely furious. That's something another YouTuber suggested. So I've got a very big list of things over here. I was trying to keep my videos shorter and to the point. It was 20 minutes long, and this one's going to be no different. I got a ton of notes over here, and of course had to talk to somebody in the comments section, which, I mean, I kind of got some good feedback. But so you're dumping raw fuel into your cylinder in the 6.4, and what it does is it cools down the piston and it cracks your piston in cylinder number 7 and 8. Also, it will not kick out of regen mode, which happened to my 450, and fuel will start going into the crankcase, which overfills your crankcase with liquid, which thins out your oil. You know, the factory oil recommendation that they make to reduce wear in the engine, well, that's thinned out now, so that's bad for an engine. It's over full, which is bad for an engine. So the things behind this is, I mean, to me, it's just a big smoke and mirrors show. And they're having some better, sorry, read over my notes here. I'm trying to be I'm trying to be a little more on here and then going off on my tangents, but that's what makes my show my show. So there's the DEF system, diesel exhaust fluid, which they're having better, I think they're having a lot better results with it. But I went ahead and looked it up because I hadn't looked into it because I didn't own one, and it's a newer vehicle, something I'm not generally working on. People generally bring older stuff to me. So diesel exhaust fluid, which is composed of 32.5% urea and 67.5% deionized water. For those who like trivia, urea is considered to be the first organic compound to be synthesized from inorganic chemicals. Let me read that again. Urea is considered to be the first organic compound to be synthesized from inorganic chemicals. If you need to hear it again, rewind the video. That is right off, that is copy and pasted right off of the answer Google gave me. So, I mean, that just sounds like complete and utter bullshit to me. So I looked up how exactly it worked because I wasn't sure. In diesel engines, urea works to reduce nitrogen oxide emissions, a chemical compound that contributes to air pollution and acid rain. Because I mean, we all know how many times it rains and it cooks the paint off your car. The role of urea in diesel engines is to convert NOx, or nitrogen oxide, to water vapor, and carbon dioxide is a part of exhaust treatment system known as selective catalytic reduction. So basically, to me, that means it takes and filters your exhaust, and instead of it going into the air, it just dumps it right onto the ground. I mean that's what that means to me, and I didn't look into it any further. But we seem to be having a little better results, and I'm just seeing video after video of these guys pulling these engines apart that are all gummed up. Basically, it just skips the middleman and makes the taxpayer get it to the ground. You know, and more things that they can tax you on, more products to sell you. And I've been told by people who own these things that it absolutely blows through this diesel exhaust fluid when you're hauling a heavy load, just like it does fuel. So the guy from Engineering Explained, who I've talked about, you know, the hello and welcome guy, super brilliant. I don't know if he's Action Engineer, if he's just the guy that the host, but he seems like a really smart guy. If he tells you something different, go with what he says. But the cost of the impact to the environment, let's just say this emission system really does work very well, but it's not going to offset an engine that only lasts 100,000 miles. I mean, I know you're going to call me Captain Hindsight here, but they'd have been far better off building an engine that got double the economy, because that's half the emissions, and an engine that can more reliably run 300, 400,000 miles. Realistically, a 500,000 mile engine isn't that necessary, because a vehicle is really pretty much totaled out and not work, and is pretty beat up by 30 years and isn't generally worth fixing. They're kind of disposable, which is, I don't understand why they claim that the electric cars are supposed to last 100 years. Like they're somehow outside the elements and the facts of vehicle wearing out. But I mean, you're going to have to offset the cost of manufacturing a new engine, which is industry, manufacturing, which is like half of the planet's carbon emissions, shipping it to where it needs to go, the fuel I have to burn to go to work to make money to replace this engine. I have to make $22,000. I'm going to pay $4,000 in taxes to pay $18,000 to replace an engine. Another $2,000 of that 18 is going to be taxes. So the $6,000 in tax revenue, heating your mechanic's shop, downtime, which costs you money, and all the mechanics here are backed up 6 weeks. It's going to be really hard to offset that. And like I showed you, I mean, it gums up the engine. And how is just taking X amount of exhaust and just cycling it back through the engine, repeating incomplete combustion, how does that really help anything? So even if this was a zero emissions thing, which it isn't, you're not going to be able to offset it. So you got to heat and cool the shop, and you're paying, the mechanics have to pay money on their wages that they make. And I was told to educate myself, and nuh-uh is not a good argument. I've looked into this. I'm seeing things that I'm seeing video after video after video of people taking this stuff off and people saying it destroys the systems and everything. Gentleman's agreement. You need to send me links and you need to watch my whole video. You can't, hang on one. Okay, gonna have to edit that part out. Gentleman's agreement. Provide links and have something to back you up. I mean, I pride myself in knowing how these things work, and I'm educated in it, and I talked to the engineers at Cummins. Interesting argument. The same engineers that bypassed and rigged their emissions to not use this system, because the engineers went, hey, you know what? It's going to be cheaper to pay the fines than do recalls and warranty work, which is exactly what happened. I mentioned in the video, $1.65 billion fine they got from the EPA, which the real Brian Mello and Changing Lanes guy both talked about. So it's interesting you come up with an argument that proves my point. and even followed up with, well, I don't gotta prove shit to you. Well, why'd you come here and talk then? You know, my anecdotal information of, hey, I've talked to mechanics isn't stronger evidence than, hey, well, I've talked to engineers, but mechanics hate engineers. You know, it's for this reason. They're designing this stuff because, I mean, mechanics don't need work. They'll always have work. Mechanical stuff is always going to break. And just doing these repair jobs, you know, pulling the cab off the truck or pulling all this emissions crap off to get to the problem to fix the, say, head gasket. I mean, you're looking at thousands of dollars just to fix a problem that's buried underneath the problem, and this stuff doesn't, it's fixing a made-up problem. Well, it's not a made-up problem, but, I mean, we need to stop poisoning our planet. But, somebody else chimed in and said, well, everybody I know who's done this has blown up an engine. Well, they blow the engine or they blow a head gasket? How many miles were on it? Was it already at its 120, 150,000 life expectancy? Did they do a really hot tune? Did it or, you know, are they hot, you know, do a really hot tune and adding 10 more pounds of boost to it? Did they start romping on it? Well, an engine breaks in and it builds its own little ecosystem in there and it gets used to running how it's ran. So, you know, you change something like this and you romp on it like, oh yeah, I got an exhaust, which you're going to drive more heavy footed when you have an exhaust system, because you want to hear it, because, you know, you're proud of it and all that stuff. So, yeah, I just don't see how this this is going to offset what it takes to make the money to replace this stuff and what it takes to fix these trucks. There's absolutely no way. And somebody's going to have to quantify that, because I am telling you that this does not make sense. And, you know, I'm not going to spend a lot of time in the comments section. I mean, yes, I want helpful feedback. I want, if I am wrong, provide me links. You have to have some kind of something to show me. You can, you know, just trust me, bro, ain't going to work. But I mean, if I get 2 comments a day per video out of 140 episodes, I think I'm up to episodes, not videos. I'm already on my phone way too much as it is. I'm not going to get to all of it. So if I don't reply to you, I mean, don't take it the wrong way. I'm scouring the internet for other things to make videos about. I mean, this channel's been really good therapy for me. Vent, get it off my chest. Hey, great, it's out there. I talked about it, and I've had some of the things I've talked about come up, and somebody brings it up, and I don't even remember what my thoughts on it were. So I need to go on the internet to find things that irritate me, so I have a things to vent about. Let's see here. Let me go through this real quick. So yeah, I just don't understand why all this stuff is coming at the expense of the taxpayer. And just like everything, follow the money trail. Politicians get people to vote for them because they're saying, hey, clean this up, and they're getting tax revenue off of it. Why? What do they have to gain by saying, hey, take this stuff off if it breaks or we start having problems with it? And I mean, I'll put, like I said, I'll put links in the comments section as requested, should I see your request. You know, I'm not just going to say Google it, because that's, you know, I look things up and I get information. If you find different information, it's information that I'm not finding, or I'm having to scroll past more than 4 things on Google to get to it. And, you know, I mean, research is going to yield different things. And are you really researching it? You talk to the engineers at Cummins. Are they telling you what their bosses want you to hear, or what the government or the EPA tells them to say to make their product look good? And I've been saying that Cummins has not had the emissions problems that the other 2 have. By that I mean GM, which covers GMC and Chevy, and Ford, or International actually, who builds the engine. And Ford actually sued them over high cost of warranties, because I guess they were holding the bag for warranties and stuff. Yeah, so I don't really see where I'm wrong on this. And, you know, I mean, I showed you the parts I removed. We show you video after video of mechanics taking this stuff off. They're not doing it you know, you got to do it in your own shop, because a shop will get a $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 fine if they do it. And I mean, they're not doing this just to scam customers. They're doing it to make things last longer, and they do not need work. They will always have things breaking. So, and there's just scores of videos of this stuff all gummed up, and every mechanic saying it's junk. You know, there's valve things that move, and now they get full of carbon because for some reason sucking exhaust, and it's not the dirty exhaust, it's just some random 10-ish% or whatever, 531% of exhaust that's just recirculating, thus perpetuating incomplete combustion. And, you know, like I said, 2,600 views, which is pretty good. I'm pretty proud of that. And I've got 2 people showing up telling me I'm wrong. I mean, and, you know, oh, well, way to admit to doing something illegal. Well, you know what? Come get me. They're going to get me for either tax fraud for not declaring the money that I'm paid to do it, which you can make a certain amount of money a year without declaring it, which I am well within that, or they're going to try to get me operating a business without a license. Well, I mean, you know, when they can't get you for one thing, they'll get you for another. Now, I'm not saying we don't need to stop poisoning our planet. I am not saying that this is not bad for the planet. We can do better. We need a solution. A battery-powered car is not a solution. In a diesel or gas electric application is actually sustainable. You get way more power, and you get a way far better economy, which is, you know, steps in the right direction. It's actually improving versus just supplementing one polluting thing for another. One, you know, throwing batteries in the landfill versus throwing them versus dumping exhaust into the atmosphere. So, yeah, follow the money trail. The politicians, they don't give a shit. If you think they give a shit about you, they don't. So I think that wraps it up. I know if you've been listening this long, thank you very much. I know I was talking your ear off here. I'm pretty sure I actually covered everything. Yeah. Oh, one more thing. You know, if you're of the belief like, oh, well, if you can afford that big diesel truck, then, you know, you should have higher, it's fine if you have higher cost of ownership. Well, higher cost of ownership, fine. But something that has a built-in self-destruct for no reason that's actually worse off is absolutely stupid, because these trucks are very expensive to own. That's why I don't own one. I don't need it. I mean, I hope to have the disposable income someday to where I can drive one, because they're fucking awesome. Tons of power. They look sweet as hell. You put a tune on it, they're fast. You know, diesel is the new muscle. But it just isn't necessary for my application. I'm not towing anything. I put 10,000 pound skid steer up one of the biggest hills in all of Alaska, coming right out of my hometown, and I can do 60 with 10,000 pounds in my 2010 Tundra half ton with the small V8. I mean, the speed limit's 45. You know, it does it just fine. So most people that own these trucks are so overkill for their purposes. I mean, the half tons have come a long way since the mid-90s, and of course before that. It will do most of what you need. Softer ride, more reliable, less of this garbage on there. So, I'm not telling you how to spend your money. Buy whatever you want, but, you know, people keep themselves living paycheck to paycheck and broke because they, for some reason, think this is the optimum vehicle to drive. And there was a time when I needed one, and I used it once, and I could have literally just rented a truck and probably been money ahead. You know, and towing a big camper someplace twice a year doesn't really make any sense either, because you could have rented a truck and been far ahead. I mean, it's $200 a month to insure the 450 that I had. I don't even want to know what a $100,000 diesel costs to insure. What, $400 a month on top of a $1,500 payment? Good God. So, all right, that's it. Thanks a lot, Internet, for joining me. I hope to get some good results on this video as well. So